Hey everybody, welcome to Tales from the Jar Side, the Cousin IT newsletter. I messed up the week again. Well, let's get to that point. The title this week is Tales from the Jar Side, JUnit Assumptions Video, upcoming live stream with Venkat Subramaniam, Medium Day, Subspace Rhapsody, and the usual assortment of Toots and Skeets and whatever other social media posts I want to include. The subtitle this week is, I never wanted to believe my dad was stealing from his job as a road worker, but when I get home, all the signs were there. Yeah, I know, really bad. But that's kind of what you expect at this point. So I say, welcome fellow jarheads to Tales from the Jar Side, the Cousin IT newsletter for the week of, and then I messed it up. And of course the week is basically August 1st through August 7th. Now, it's July 31st, I guess, through August 7th. Today's the 7th. Yesterday was the newsletter, the 6th, I suppose. But I forgot to update the date again, which is kind of becoming a thing. Oh, well. It says the right date up on the release date, August 6th here, so okay, let's move on. This week, the only class I had was a 2-day functional programming in Java course on the O'Reilly Learning Platform that I taught in the APAC time zones. So that was evening my time, although not really late. It was about 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time. I'm in Eastern Daylight Time at the moment in Connecticut. So that meant there were actually a fair number of people from the Northeast, or well, I shouldn't say Northeast, from the North America in the class itself. I mean, we offer this late so that it would hopefully make more sense for people in India and China, etc. But we get an awful lot of Americans in those classes. Now, I've got an upcoming course that's going to be in the middle of the night for me. That'll be more appropriate to those time zones, but I'll mention that when we get there. Regular readers of, and listeners to, and of course, video viewers of this newsletter are affectionately known as jarheads, and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than regular newsletter average, I should say, newsletter readers or listeners or viewers. If you wish to become a jarhead, please subscribe using the button in the newsletter. That's also my cue to take a look at the YouTube channel, and we are up to 515 subscribers this week, which is really good news. Now, I got to tell you, one of the things that happened this week is I broke 500 subscribers, but I must confess that I was somewhat dampened in that enthusiasm because like the next 5 subscribers were all people in somewhere in Asia sending me an email, the identical email, by the way, all telling me that they do search engine optimization and they could help my videos get views. So they were really hoping I would be willing to have a conversation with them. And in other words, it was all just spam. So I don't know how many of my subscribers are spam, but I'm not talking to the spam ones. I'm talking to you. So at any rate, here we are. The other interesting thing you might notice is I have 98 videos at the moment. Now, some of those older ones are excerpts from newsletters, so I'm not even sure I'm going to keep those too long because they didn't do very well. But that means today's video will be 99, and I do have another video planned already in the pipeline that will be good old number 100. Again, totally meaningless milestone in terms of anything having to do with YouTube, but it'll be kind of neat to hit a round number just for grids. Okay, one thing before I leave, the video that was released this week is this one called the assumeTrue method. If you can see that, it says JUnit 5, assumeTrue method, precondition testing for the win. And I'll have a couple of comments about that as part of the newsletter. So now let me close this and go back to the newsletter. So speaking of those JUnit 5 assumptions, I went on a bit of a rant here. I said this is the technical part of this week's newsletter. If you're not interested, feel free to skip it. I mean, how would I know? It's not like I collect any data on you, unlike Google or Apple or Facebook or Amazon. I left out Amazon. Beyond the number of opens that Substack reports, that's all they tell me. They tell me how many people opened it. They don't tell me specifically who. Wait, does that mean the big Silicon Valley monsters? Monsters should probably be capitalized there, right? I don't know. Know everything I read too? And, well, probably. So I guess it's not news to them that most of these dad jokes that I put in the subtitle, like the one I did up here with all the signs were there, etc., are coming from the Dad Says Jokes Twitter feed. And I would go there, but I'm not doing anything to advocate going to X anymore, to Twitter. It's like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I do get most of my gags from there. I just want to be upfront about it. And yeah, I still call it Twitter. Sometimes instead I'll say, you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. I know I have this urge to say we must be cautious if I try to go there again. I'm assuming everyone who reads this newsletter will get that reference. In the wildly unlikely event that you didn't, I'll just say Google Moss Isley Spaceport and you can go from there. I'll probably put a link when I annotate this with the text blocks. At any rate, that's getting more and more true every day of Twitter. Then I went, don't like it? Come at me, Elon. I can think of no better way to make my books sell and my YouTube channel views skyrocket than for that idiot to call me out publicly. Yeah, that's probably true. I'd be willing to be in a warm-up cage match with Elon before a Zuck fight, because then I could also sue him for the inevitable hospital bills I incur just from the training I'd need to get ready. Although I gotta say, first of all, expecting Elon to pay up on anything, including lawsuits, looks like a lost cause. He's apparently notorious for not paying his bills, which makes me wonder, why does anybody give him any credit or anything? I mean, I know there's a pile of money there, but if it takes a ton of money just to get the tiny amount that you're owed, I don't know. And also, apparently there was a tweet by Elon about saying, there was a couple tweets that I did not include in the newsletter, because again, I don't go on Twitter very often anymore. One saying that all the money from the cage match, first of all, the cage match would be live streamed on Twitter, and all the money from that was going to go to charity, at which point Zuck kicked in with a response saying, wouldn't you rather have it, something like, wouldn't you rather have it on a platform that is actually likely to send the money to the charity? It's like, oh my goodness. I mean, it was really and owned by Zuckerberg. I mean, believe it or not. I mean, I don't know who wrote it for him, but, you know. Also, then Elon tweeted something about needing to have an MRI the next day, and then we'll see, which is, I guess that's not quite as bad as his mom telling him he can't be in a fight anymore, but it's on that same level. It's like, oh my goodness, really? You're going to beg out because you're hurt, right? Because you're not even... I mean, the least you could do is pretend you got hurt in training. Speaking of Elon the stupid, as I said, did you see this? Sadly, only a parody headline from Andy Borowitz, who does the parodies at the New Yorker. Elon Musk changes his own name to WTF, with the subtitle being, explaining the decision reporters, he said, Elon Musk is an okay name, but WTF fits me better. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's just wonderful. Okay, getting back to the actual video. Last week, I talked in the newsletter about how you can use the assumptions class in JUnit with its assumeTrue method to avoid tests that have no chance of succeeding. And the example I used there was the pop method on a stack, saying that you should never call pop on an empty stack. Otherwise, you'll throw an empty stack exception. But more to the point, an empty stack is a precondition violation. It's the only way that the post conditions on the pop method are going to be true, that there's one less item on the stack, etc., is if there is at least one item on the stack before you call it. And you use the assumeTrue method in JUnit to check the preconditions, and if the preconditions aren't satisfied, you skip the test entirely. So that was last week's video, which was listed right here. I promised, however, that I had another one coming, and it was because I have this, here, let me actually show it to you. I have this Spring Boot project, which has 4 different RESTful web services, an Astro service, one using Google's geocoder, one that contacts a joke server, and one that uses the JSON placeholder RESTful web service. And I put them through their paces using all the different Spring Boot mechanisms. Well, the way I introduced last week's video was to say that I tried running the tests here and they all failed, and it was because the network was down. And of course, that's a precondition violation. I shouldn't be exercising any of the tests if the network's down. They have no chance of succeeding whatsoever. So at any rate, there's a video coming this week that's going to exercise all of those. And here is the test results of all of those preconditions working. You can see I have 21 tests and every single one of them are ignored because again, the network's down and I had to disable my Wi-Fi in order to make that happen, which is really nerve-wracking for me, but I did. So that video is coming. The thing that's held that one up a little bit is I'm trying to use this Descript tool that I really like, but Descript sometimes really feels like beta software. It's got bugs in it. It's got issues. And they are moving fast and breaking things. There's a lot of really neat features about it, but I run into issues that frustrate me on that. At any rate, look for that video tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, certainly by then. I do want to get that out relatively quickly and celebrate 100 videos and then move on to something else. I did comment that the content of this video, the one on the assumeTrue method with the stack, is solid, but the presentation's a bit ragged. I've been working with a YouTuber named Meredith Marsh. Let me show you her channel very quickly here. So this is Meredith, and she talks a lot about how to make videos on YouTube and how to expand your reach and see, she's built a thriving channel, all that kind of stuff. And I've been following her 30-day course to a thriving channel. And I even got a chance to talk to her. And she's been very kind and very helpful, which is great. But she pointed out in my little thumbnail here, which I thought I did a really nice job on, that yes, it's nice and specific, but it's also nice and boring. I mean, the bottom line is if you already know that there is an assumeTrue method in JUnit and you want to know how it works, then yeah, maybe you'll click on this. But if you've never heard of it, why would you even click on this? It's basically a boring thumbnail. The other thing that I didn't realize was she's making it clear is I have to separate out the title from the thumbnail. The title here is just the assumeTrue method, which is simple. But I don't have to repeat that in the thumbnail. I could make it something more interesting, more of a teaser, what have you, and then people could look at the title and decide whether they want to click on it or not. So look for something a little bit more interesting, hopefully not too clickbaity, in the next video that's coming this week. Okay, moving on. So here's the little award quote that I got from vidIQ. I registered with them, I don't know, a few months ago, but I haven't paid them any money yet. And they really, really want their sweet, sweet subscription money. So they periodically send me a little symbol like this when I reach some milestone. And apparently that 500 subscriber milestone was a big deal, so they sent me this. I think the next milestone that I'm likely to hit is 10,000 total views on the overall channel. I think I'm only 300 or 400 away from that. That still sounds like a lot to me. I mean, I make 50 to 100 views on a video. That's not going to get thousands, but we'll see. Who knows? I still haven't subscribed, however. We'll see how long I can hold out on that before I break down. Now, in order to join the so-called YouTube Partner Program, for full participation, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in the last year. Now, they introduced a limited form, what a lot of people are referring to as YouTube Partner Program Lite. They introduced that a couple months ago, and that only requires 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. You just don't get to participate in the ad revenue, but you can monetize your audience. Not that I would do that. My watch hours at the moment are about, I don't know, well, less than 500. So while I've got my 500 subscribers, I got a long way to go to get 3,000 watch hours. So we'll see. Hopefully, I'm guessing that the more subscribers I have, the more watch hours, more quickly the watch hours will accumulate just by simple math. But I don't know that that's the case. We'll have to see how that goes. Okay. The thing I frustrate about with Descript, I think I mentioned here, is that they have like this zoom in animation automatic link. You could add an animation and zoom right in. They don't have a zoom out. And I'm like, what? You have to do the zoom out manually or something? And I'm like, I have to have missed something. And I've gone in their Discord server and asked, and I'm asking around to see if there's anything there. But that's what I mean by feeling like the software's not quite ready for prime time. Okay, let's move on. This week I want to talk about a couple of events I have upcoming. The fun part is on this Wednesday, which will be August 9th, I'm doing a Tales from the Jar Side live stream with Venkat Subramaniam. And in fact, I did schedule that this morning. So if I go to the YouTube channel again and I look under live, there is a link here to the Tales from the Tales from the Jar Side live stream with Venkat Subramaniam. And all you have to do is click the little notify me. I think I'll do it right now. Click. And now I will be notified when my live stream is going to happen. Yeah, okay. That's useful. So notice I've started to adopt this nice little pattern for the thumbnails there. But that's the upcoming live stream with Venkat. I imagine to my audience, Venkat hardly needs an introduction. But if you're not aware of him, his site is called agiledeveloper.com. And it's very, very thin. Not a lot there. But look at the books here. Basically, Venkat has a book on everything. He's kind of legendary, especially in the No Fluff, Just Stuff community. But honestly, he's a worldwide speaker. He will give any given number of talks available at a conference. He's an expert on pretty much everything. And if he wasn't such an incredibly nice guy and really friendly and helpful, he'd be really annoying. I mean, professional jealousy being a thing and all of that. He's a good friend. I'm really happy to get a chance to talk to him, and that will be at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time this Wednesday. So hopefully some of you will make it. Be sure to say you're a jarhead, and I'll give you a shout out on the live stream. Hi to Bill Fly ahead of time, who's only going to be able to make it for a short period of time. Okay, so it's all scheduled. I also have a link on the LinkedIn account, but you can go to that if you want. I don't need to bring that up as well. Also this week on Saturday is what they're calling Medium Day. If I go to that link, here's the registration link for Medium Day. Save the date for August 12th, a celebration of community and human storytelling. They've got quite the schedule here. You can go ahead and click on it and see the schedule. And they've got interviews and panels and lots of talks that all range for roughly half an hour each. I guess some are longer than that, but most of them are like that. And the pragmatic programmers who have published my last couple of books are holding a panel session on, hey, you've written blog posts before, you want to know what it's like to write a book? And I'll be one of the people on that panel. I tried to put the image in here. I don't know if it came out really well. It says Q&A with authors from the Pragmatic Bookshelf. You've been writing short-form tech content on Medium, and now you're ready to try writing a book, but you have questions. Get answers from authors who have been, etc. And there's Margaret Eldridge was my editor, and she's there. And the other authors are Mike Riley and Carl Stolley and Ashley Peacock. And I don't know any of them personally, so it'll be a good opportunity for me to get to know them. And of course, I'm there as well. So I have no idea how that's going to go or what we're going to do on that. Our panel, I believe, is at, I can see it right here. It's at 11 a.m., again, Eastern Daylight Time. And I can't spend too much time there because, as I actually mentioned, that's my wife's birthday on Saturday. So I don't want to waste too much time there, although she doesn't care, really. We'll probably go out to dinner or whatever. And I have to remember to get a present, don't I? That would be a good idea. Okay, let's move on. I have another thing going on, not this week, but a week from Friday on the No Fluff Just Stuff website. You see I'm giving a webinar here called, let's click on it, Practical AI Tools for Java Developers. Now this is a variation on a presentation I did at UberConf, and it's a beginning to what's going to be a half-day training I'll be giving as No Fluff Just Stuff virtual workshops as we go. But I'm updating everything to the latest version of all these different tools. I've played with using Java code to access ChatGPT's API and the Whisper tool inside there. Google's Bard, it turns out, also has a REST-based API. They've got a Java one too, but they're all just contacting the RESTful web service. But for that one, you need to get a key, an API key, which apparently they're only giving out if you're on the waiting list. So I put myself on the waiting list. I hope that I will get the key before we start. But if not, I have plenty of other things to talk about. GitHub Copilot, GitHub Copilot X, the Copilot Next stuff, the AI assistant plugin inside of IntelliJ, and many other AI-based tools that you may find interesting. Hey, the price is right. It's free. So that will be Friday, August 18th from 1 to 2 p.m. Again, Eastern Daylight Time. Okay. Moving on. Oh, just as a teaser, I went inside GPT-4 and I used the code interpreter capability, which is a capability you could add to that, and asked it to give me a plot of the Mandelbrot set last week's newsletter. This week I said, okay, show me a Julius set as well. And that's derived from the Mandelbrot set, where you have a fixed value in the complex plane for the constant, and it just determines again which values converge and which ones don't. I'm not going to get into the details, but it made a nice picture, didn't it? So there's a pretty picture that was generated by the code interpreter plugin inside of GPT-4. I did put a link to the Wikipedia page on Julius sets in case you're interested. Okay, I think I've talked about everything in there. Let's move on to Subspace Rhapsody. There have been a whole series of next generation Star Trek shows, if I can use a pun like that. I'm not even going to give that a rim shot. I mean, it started with Star Trek Discovery and moved on to others. Some of them have been horrible, like Picard. It was just terrible the whole time. Marginal in the last season, but basically terrible the whole time. Discovery has ranged from, in my opinion, mediocre to lousy. I really was kind of disappointed with it. I was pretty good off and on. I very much enjoyed Star Trek Lower Decks, the animated one. That's just kind of up my alley because I get all those old references and I like the humor. If you don't like the humor, it's not going to work for you. But I enjoyed it. And the best one by far, I mean, just hands down better than any of the others, has been Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And they are about to complete season 2 of that. And this week, they released episode 9 of season 2 called Subspace Rhapsody. Now, I was not supposed to watch it. As I mentioned, my wife is on a retreat this week, her little ladies' retreat, where they go off and do strange and bizarre and mystical things, as I say. You know, I mean, it's a crafting retreat. They rent a crafting house. They work on crafts and whatever else they're interested in doing. So I was presumably supposed to wait until she got back to watch this thing, but I couldn't take it, so I watched it. And here's my rationalization. I mean, I wanted to avoid spoilers online. The big one, and this is legitimate, is that it's musical, and it's a musical episode. Sometimes the songs you need to hear several times for them to really settle in. I mean, it's very rare that big Broadway shows will have one song that everybody goes, wow, that's a hit. And it takes forever to come up with that. I mean, this is a really hard thing to do. But if you listen to the soundtrack a bunch of times, you grow to like a lot of them. So I wanted to see this at least a couple of times, and I have. And besides, I really wanted to watch it. So since then, I have watched it twice, and then I finally realized that the soundtrack's probably out, and I went on my music service, which is YouTube Music, because it was Google. Again, my company's run on Google horses. So I found the soundtrack on Google Music, or YouTube Music now, and I've listened to it, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen times, and it really has grown on me. I really like it. Here's my mostly non-spoiler impressions. The plot doesn't matter. It was just an excuse to do a musical episode. For a group of actors that aren't professional singers, they did an excellent job. Some of them actually have fair amount of singing training. A couple of them, like Uhura, really has done things related to Broadway, and I think Una, Rebecca Romaine's Rebecca Romaine has actually done some musical training as well. They all do an excellent job. It's remarkable how good the cast is at singing. The only one who clearly is not a singer is the captain. Captain Pike's not a singer, Anson Mount. And I get the feeling the Doctor's not a singer either, but they minimized him in the show. I didn't find the music that catchy, but that's mostly because it's not traditional A-B style. It's not written like pop music. It's written more, I'm not going to say Sondheim-like, but it moves around. It's got different keys and chords and shifts and everything. You kind of have to hear it a few times to have it settle in. Of course, they had James Kirk again, the actor playing Jim Kirk, as a guest star. And I realized pretty quickly that they had to, because he's the only tenor in the cast. And I'm not sure he's exactly a tenor. I think he probably is. But again, relatively speaking, nobody else in the cast is a tenor. And I think they needed one for some of the harmonies and everything. So he's fine. He's mostly baritone with good high notes. Maybe he's a tenor with good low notes. I mean, that's kind of where I am. By contrast, Spock is a baritone with very nice low notes. I really enjoyed his work. I did a lot. And the most controversial part is the K-pop, or I should say Klingon pop, but whatever. That segment, I thought it was wonderful. I loved it. I thought it was great. And in case you didn't know, the actor, and this is not really a spoiler because you need to know this eventually, the actor who plays the Klingon captain is the same actor who played Hemmer last season, the engineer. So, of course, I made an MC Hammer joke, and I haven't seen anybody else make that gag. So I really do need to flesh that out and post it on social media or something. Anyway, go watch it. It's fun. It's definitely controversial, and it's going to be a singularity because next week's the second season finale, and I imagine that's going to be very heavy. Last year's season finale was very heavy. We'll see what happens again. In case you don't know, my wife and I actually met doing community theater shows. We did them together for a number of years. Then when my son was born, we used to take turns. We did a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan as well. It's something that's in our history. I have no doubt that when her flight lands tonight coming home and we watch it tomorrow, I'm sure she's going to enjoy it as well. Okay, let's move on. So for the Toots and Skeets, I went to this one. I like this. Ages when you're in your prime. And they've got all the prime numbers from 23 to 109. And I said, hey, me. I'm one of those. I'll let you guess which one. Well, okay. I'm 61. So that's me right there. So anyway, I'm in my prime. How about that? Moving on. Too much time online. Someone posted this, which if I read it out loud, it's going to mess it up, but I'll do it anyway. Wow, I guess I spent too much time on the internet today because for a second I read crochet as like crocodile heterosexual just for a moment there. So croc-het, basically. And yeah, I could see how that could be a problem, right? The old joke, of course, is how do you know the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? Is that one you see later and the other you see after a while. See you later, alligator, after a while, crocodile. It's an old gag. I really like that one. Then, of course, Elon couldn't leave well enough alone. I've already talked about him more than I wanted to, but I like the picture here. There was an article on The Verge that pointed out that Elon's attempt to bribe people to stay on his site, rewarding all those right-wing trolls that have acquired a big following for being there by paying them. And it says Elon Musk X can't send blue subscribers their ad revenue sharing payouts on time. And the check is not in the mail and all of that. And I love the image here. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on. So this one I titled, yeah, that would be great. So aliens arrive. We have killed your leaders and taken control of your planet. Us. Oh, thank God. Aliens, you are now citizens of... Wait, what? Yeah, I, for one, welcome our new alien overlords.
And I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords.
This political image I thought was a riot. It's basically got Jack Smith, the federal prosecutor who filed the indictments, playing chess, and Trump playing checkers with one checker. And there were other comments in the alt text about the conservative opening, kind of a reflection of how long it took for the indictments to be filed, and how Trump has way more time available because he hadn't been doing anything. And at any rate, you could take a look if you like. I thought it was a good image. This one, of course, went in a different direction than I thought it was going. Another one for Rita, all she needs. Another one for Tina, what she sees. Another one for Sandra in the sun. Another one for Mary all night long. But they were all of them deceived. For another mambo was made in the land of Mordor and the fires of Mount Doom. The Dark Lord Lubega, of course, forged in secret a master mambo to control all others, a mambo number 5. Yes, and I just threw in, one does not simply mambo into Mordor. Yeah, okay. This one entitled, Yeah, Me Neither. I hate when cashiers feel the need to check if my money is real. If I could counterfeit money, I wouldn't be at Dollar Tree, Karen. Yeah, the Karen really makes that one, doesn't it? Although Dollar Tree's pretty good too. Now, of course, if I could counterfeit money, I'd be in jail. I'd never get away with anything. But I get the point. This was an elegant solution, made me think of something as well. It says a 74-year-old man uses his hairdryer to slow traffic near his home. That's great. And it reminded me of my mother-in-law, passed away many years ago. And she and her, my father-in-law had a cabin up on Lake Champlain. They called it a camp. They all did up there, the whole group of them. But to me, it was a cabin. And they had the speed limit there going by those camps was supposed to be like 5 miles an hour. They got big signs as 5. And of course, kids especially would go zooming past it. And she would get so mad. She'd run outside and yell at them, slow down. It's the old lady yelling at them. Hopefully it'd get their attention. I wish we'd thought of this in time for her to try it out. She would have done that in a heartbeat and laughed and laughed. It would have been great. So I'm kind of sad that I didn't think of that by then, but it made me think of her, and we had a very pleasant relationship, so oh well. Okay, this one, definitive proof here. If Earth really were flat, or really was flat, cats would have knocked everything off the edge a while ago. Okay, flat earthers, respond to that. Yeah, I'm going to refute that one. That's indisputable. Okay, and then finally a Star Trek joke, good old 7 of 11. Wait a minute, that needs a rim shot. For those of you not in the U.S. or not in a place where we have let me just say it this way. In many parts of the U.S., we have little convenience stores that are called 7-Eleven, and I don't remember why. Maybe they were open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or whatever, but regardless, they were very popular, and this would be 7 of 11. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Have a great week, everybody. I'll have another video out tomorrow. I don't have any classes this week, which means I'm going to try to arrange for a bunch of meetings. I'm already planning to meet with several people and get some other things done, some other projects I'm working on, and I'll let you know in the future. So thanks for coming this time. See you all next week. Take care.